and thanks for staying with us. Customs impound more goods from smugglers operating in the western zone of the country. Also on customs report, the Controller General of Customs speaks more on customs activities in the country. Plus, more report. I am Egeseme Itinye. Stay tuned. The Controller General of Nigerian Customs Service has told National Assembly members that the customs will continue to implement government policies. He said that the policies will also help the government to improve on revenue generation.
First and foremost, on the issue of vehicles being accosted, so I must have enlightened that we have three layers of making sure that our laws are enforced. We have at the port the area controllers and their team. We have the FOU, Federal Operation Unit, and also we have the strike force. And because of the discretion and sometimes the indiscretion of our officers, where compromise is being made between the importers and our officers, we have to put other layers to check these things. And that is why you sometimes will find out, let me say this, that there are cloned custom documents going about. Agents will connive with our officers. When you pay as an importer, you give him the correct duty, he will calculate the correct amount of the duty you're supposed to pay with all charges. He gives you, and you give him the money. He will go and connive with a custom officer and reduce the distance. And then they clone the paper, and you take the vehicle out. For the FOU chap, as far as is concerned, that paper you presented did not meet the requisite requirement. That happens sometimes to innocent importers. There are also importers who connive directly with the agents and reduce the duty. And then expect that paper, when it's out, that is done. It's not like Bible and Quran, no. It's subject to checking. And if we discover that the value of the car that you are riding is not commensurate with the duty you pay, then you question. And let me also say, the issue of saying you buy a car for 180,000 naira or also euro. Cost duty of car is not only the value of the car you bought the car. There's cost of the vehicle, there's insurance, there's freight. All these are calculated to what you pay as duty. So sometimes we need to ask questions before we begin to fight the system. If they give you an amount, ask the customs officer, what is the composition of this amount? What are the subheads that makes up this total? He will explain to you. It's not only because you bought a car for 130 euro, and therefore you will come and just look at the cost of the car and then that. No, there's insurance, there's freight. All those are calculated and added to the value based on the cost. So you pay. That's what the law says. So it's not that So let us ask questions. I'm sure our officers will be able to explain some of these things. And that's why the issue of underpayment do arise. Because if you compromise, or your agent compromise, in most cases agent, now we have taken the steps in custom to prosecute agents, because we have discovered that agents are cheating importers. They know the correct charges. They will calculate everything and give it to you, and you give them the money. They will go and take that money, and then if you say your car is 2018 or 2019, they will go and reduce that car to 2009, and then say it's accidental. And they know that the value will drop, and they will pay that. And when you bring that car out, and an FOU officer sees you with that car, and you present that document, he looks at the car, it does not meet that description. And therefore you are liable to pay another money. So this is what is happening. This is what is happening. And we are doing the best we can, but always ask the question. And that's why we're trying to automate the system. By e-custom, you can sit in your house. You want to import Mercedes 250E. You will see the freight, you will see what is the insurance on it, what is the freight on it. You calculate your duty. You can pay online without talking to anybody. Then you can ask an agent to go and collect it for you. It makes it easier. We are trying to automate the system. And once that is automated, this discretion will remove completely. And therefore, agents will not, but today, agents are one of our biggest problems. Because they give you a different listing, and they go and do a different thing. And they give you, when they collect the paper, you don't even know which one is genuine, which one is not genuine. As far as we are concerned, you have a genuine custom paper. But by the time the officer looks at it and says it's not genuine, the quarrel will start. How come, is it not from custom that it comes? It might not be from custom. It might not be from custom. I am going to respond to this one after the other. I would first take the chairman's comments on the issue of the budget of 2021 and the need to increase it from the 1.4 trillion to 1.679 trillion. Let me grab the indulgence of the chairman here to say the target set by the federal government every year is based on some parameters. Is not based on an ad hoc computation. First and foremost, the MTEF, which is the budget committee, sits down and look at and do a complete analysis, and then do a projection. And with our own officers, we also sit down and look at what is feasible that can be generated. And Mr. Chairman, I make haste to say this last year, 2020, we are lucky. Despite the COVID-19, we were able to garner this. But as at then, the African Free Trade Agreement did not come into place. African Free Trade Agreement has now taken effect from the 1st of January 2021. And that agreement is geared towards zero duty for all imports coming from member countries within Africa. Imports coming from countries within Africa is a significant percentage in the collection of duty we do. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, if you recall when Ngozi Owela was here, she made mention of the WTO agreement. That also has come into effect, and we are signatory to that treaty. What is also gearing to us is zero duty to the import of member countries. So if we take this into consideration, Mr. Chairman, and I also want to say here that the COVID that we are praying assiduously that COVID subsides. The vaccine is getting on and very well, although many Nigerians are shying away from it, from what I gathered. But hopefully, very soon it will pick up and most of us will be vaccinated and protected against this pandemic. But we must also make sure you understand that a lot of industries outside Nigeria have suffered tremendous injuries with regards to the COVID. So picking up and really producing and of course for our own people to be able to buy these things will take a longer time. So putting all this together, Mr. Chairman, and then when we look at the target, we would crave the indulgence of this committee to understand that we rather tread on fair ground than to be in a haste. We need to take it slowly. 1.4, the last time when the COVID came into place, The government decided to reduce that budget to 1.3 trillion. By God's grace, we were able to get 1.5 total collection. So it is also our hope that if we get anything above 1.4, it will reflect in the collection. But I don't want us to set the target too high, and then at the end of the day, we find it difficult to meet, and we feel somehow that we have not been able to perform. But there are variables, intervening variables, that I want you to take into consideration. And these agreements, when they fully take effect, they are really going to eat much in our own collection, because there will be zero duties, and we cannot enforce it beyond that. We must allow these things to come at that level. So, Mr. Chairman, I want you to take this into consideration in taking a decision as to what amount should be. And I feel that we should return to 1.4, and if anything in the course of the year allows us to collect anything more than 1.4, it will be reflected just like it was reflected in 2021. But I don't want us to be too ambitious, only to fall far short of what is expected. I think the morale of the officers will be sustained if we are able to either meet the target or equal this thing. But if we begin to fall far below because the target is set so high, then there will be a problem. So I appeal that we look at these variables and consider the issue of raising the budget, the target to 1.6. We will return to 1.4, and I assure you anything collected beyond 1.4 will be reflected just like it is reflected in 2020.
You are watching the program Customs Report. The Ogun 1 Command has intercepted goods worth millions of naira from smugglers operating along the unapproved routes in Ogun State. The controller said that his men are ever ready to implement all government policies, saying that any smuggler caught will face the wrath of the law.
Inform you that during the period under review, that's in the month of April, the command has been able to sustain its achievement in the area of anti-smuggling activities by recording another seizure of over 7,000 bags of foreign parboiled rice. It's important to note the catastrophic damage this quantity of rice will cause to the federal government rice agricultural policy if allowed to get into the Nigerian markets. Several other contraband goods were also arrested in various quantities. For example, we've arrested products like frozen poultry items, cannabis sativa, the one popularly called marijuana, vehicles used as means of conveyance of smuggled items, used clothing and shoes, tires, used tires, sugar, tomatoes in retail form, body creams and petroleum products made for export. The cumulative duty paid value, that's the DPV, for all the seizures in the month of April 2021 amounted to 189,923,293 naira only. The federal government of Nigeria's directive on border closure is still subsisting. As such, there is no revenue generated from import and export activities. However, a total sum of 225,000 naira was generated from the auction sales of seized petroleum products in the command. I wish to reinstate here that our intelligence network in the command is still very strong as we deployed intelligence in virtually all our operations in the area. And greater successes are continuously being recorded on a daily basis. Let me warn the criminal elements in the state that in whichever way and methods you plan your smuggling activities, we shall definitely uncover it, make arrests, and inflict gross financial injury on such perpetrators heading to the eastern part of the country. 3 people were arrested, including the driver of the vehicle. An investigation is ongoing to unravel those behind this act of massive smuggling activity. Recently, the command patrol officers came under severe attack from the daredevil smugglers, hoodlums, and their sympathizers, using pump-action rifles, AK-47 rifles, den guns, cutlasses, and other dangerous weapons at Ojodan in Yewa southern part of Ogun State, in which some command officers sustained gunshot injuries. The attack was successfully repelled, and over 300 bags of foreign parboiled rice was seized in that operation. Let it be known that these pockets of attacks on security operatives will not deter us or discourage us from continuous onslaught on smugglers, their sympathizers, and other economic saboteurs in Ogun State.
A total of 338 million naira worth of goods has been intercepted by the coordinator of the CG Strike Force operating in the western zone of the country. The Strike Force coordinators used the opportunity to warn importers to always obey the law of the federal government. It speaks more on the seizure of goods made by its men.
In contrast to what is inside. If duty is collected, they will perpetrate more evil. The reason for seizing this is to send a message to importers who don't want to conform that proper declaration, honest declaration, is key to a virile and stable economy. Dishonesty in the clearance process should be discouraged by this act. That is why we seize it. We may choose to reclassify and collect duty, but the message is not clear. So once this financial loss is there, they will suffer. We believe they have a change of heart, so that tomorrow, when they bring this type of consignment, they will declare correctly, and the right duty is collected, so that government can carry out critical infrastructural development in this country. Health implication of it cannot be overemphasized. Government in its wisdom banned this just because of what? Because of the health and well-being of its citizenry. Help us to escalate this, that we will go nowhere if these type of items are allowed to come in and are patronized. If the teeming population refuse to patronize, buy this, then those who will bring, the importers will fail in their attempt to sell this. You and I, the Nigerians should note that these things are not good for consumption. You wear things that have already been rejected, things that will hinder our own health. And a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. And anybody that is sick, all these modern diseases are as a result of this type of things we go to market to buy and wear.
He also speaks on the seizure of shoes alongside used clothing as intercepted by his unit.
Boys and girls scattered all over this country are into footwear production. They do something better than this. We should encourage our teeming youth to be gainfully employed. If we allow this type of improper importation to exist, then our country will be turned into dumping ground. And youth restiveness will continue. We don't want that. So that is why we are part and parcel of this struggle. Consignments that failed due process. Consignments that have found to have compromised the extant rules, the clearing procedures, and import prohibition. Recall earlier on we did mention that owing to credible intelligence, the Eagle Eye of our operatives have gone around to ensure that consignments, goods that did not follow due process, are brought, detained, examined, and action taken.
Items in Kaduna zone. For that urge importers to always seek clearance of customs for importing goods they cannot explain in the country.
A joint seizure is made. The credit goes to all that participated in making that seizure. So this quantity I mentioned, 513 bags, that are loading. Secondly, we have 591 cartons of foreign spaghetti and macaroni, valued at 3,513,660 kobo. We also have 360 cartons of pharmaceutical products, valued at 21,710,700 naira. These pharmaceutical products were intercepted around Jos site, forest. They are not having the required NAFDAC number. The other item seized is foreign vegetable oil in 25 liters. We have 191 kegs. 191 kegs of foreign vegetable oil in 25 liters, valued at 12,617,221 naira 25 kobo. We also have 76 bales and sacks of second-hand clothing, valued at 17,865,425 naira. We have 70 bags of fertilizer in 50 kg, foreign fertilizer in 50 kg. You know, it's not allowed to come in for security reasons. Anybody who is expected to bring fertilizer will have to be permitted through the issuance of end user certificate from National Security at the Advisor Office. We got it and we seized it. It was valued at 1,580,250 kobo. We also have 27 vehicles. These vehicles are the means of carriage, the means of conveyance. As I said the other time, whenever arrest is made, the content and the means of carriage, which means the motor, all of them are liable for seizure. So we have got 27 vehicles as means of carriage, valued at 19,575,547 naira. We also have 20 kegs of PMS, petroleum motor spirit, in 25 liters. This one, because of its combustibility, is very perishable. It was auctioned out immediately as we got it. It was valued at 958,365 naira. Other items include 2 units of used vehicles that you will see outside, valued at 25,891,394 naira 14 kobo. All in all, the total value of this seizure stands at 165,198,000 544 kobo, naira 32 kobo. I want to say
The Katsina Command has continued to warn smugglers against the importation. Just before the end of this week edition of the program Custom Report, we brought you a report where goods worth over 338